All right. How's everybody doing tonight?
Great.
Okay. I will go ahead and answer the biggest question that everyone has been asking. When can we see the baby? Well, we are going to be following protocols from our pediatrician and all the nurses for the NICU. Aurora is still considered a preemie, and it is still RSV season, and so
we got cooties.
Yeah, everyone's got cooties right now, and so it's probably going to be a while, at least until she's over that preemie stage, before you can be able to see her. And we are going to have a huge disclaimer for everyone that please wash your hands if you are wanting to hold her. Stay out of the face. Yeah, no kissies. Sorry. She's adorable. I know you're going to want to kiss, but no kissies. Yeah. And it's always appropriate to ask the mama if, may I hold the baby? Yeah. And so just some disclaimers, okay? All right. Just letting everybody know. Okay. I don't want y'all to have to be searching for a new preacher because my wife, decided to dig a hole in the backyard. Yeah. And put me in there. All right. So we talked it over, and so she wanted me to share those disclaimers with everybody tonight. And she misses every one of you, and she loves each and every one of you. And thank y'all again tremendously just for coming by and dropping off some food and the cards and the gifts and everything. We just really cannot thank you enough. I'd like to go ahead and also share another story about a young whippersnapper. Young whippersnapper who was doing some good work over in the mission field. And he was new in the environment there. And however, the church there was continuing to grow. And they were also not just growing numerically and spiritually, but they're also growing financially. And so they're at a point where they're getting close to being able to support themselves financially. And so they invested in getting a lot of yard tools, like mowers, rakes, weed eaters, you name it. And so people around the community started beginning to notice that, hey, they got some nice tools over there. And so without this new young whippersnapper in this mission field, without him being informed about how some people decide to ask if they can borrow things and not return them, approached the young whippersnapper. Some people approached the young whippersnapper and asked, saying, hey, I was wondering, I got weeds growing up, and I received a citation from the city, and if I don't get it mowed and cut and removed, then I'm going to be facing a $500 fine. So is it all right if I can borrow this, and I'll return it back to you just whenever I finish. And then so the young whippersnapper was trying to be nice and be like, yeah, absolutely. Need any help over there? No, I don't need any help. And it turned into days. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. And do you ever even suppose or think that this young whippersnapper received back his gardening tools? No, did not return them back. I'm sure everybody has probably fallen into that category before, where they have asked, or somebody has approached you and asked you if, hey, can I borrow this and I will return it at this time and this day, and that's the last you've ever seen of them or the thing that you allowed them to borrow. Who's been in that boat before? All right, well, if you haven't figured things out by now after that story, that young whippersnapper was me. Yeah. That was me, yes, on the reservation. Oh, yes. That is a big tip. If you were to go out on the mission field, is do not let anybody borrow anything that you have, because you will not see it again. It's
I
true.
thought you were the one that borrowed.
No, I was
And didn't return.
Ain't that bad, Bonnie? Come on. I guess that's what I get for calling you out on Sunday morning. Yeah. In class.
Well, I was going to say, did you bring my dishes back?
Oh, oops. Chris, did you tell her?
I did not.
Another disclaimer. Yes, if y'all loaned us some dishes, you will get them back.
Maybe.
Yes, you will get them back. But I think that is a great transition into our next section that we're going to be studying tonight. we have been obviously going through the life of Christ, and a lot of members here have just informed me that they would like to not just necessarily breeze over or just do an overview of the Sermon on the Mount. They'd actually want to take time and go through the Sermon on the Mount. And so I thought it was great. The Sermon on the Mount was actually on my list of teachings and subjects I was wanting to teach on a Sunday or Wednesday class. So I'm like, hey, go ahead and kill two birds with one stone, shall we? And then so I like the idea. And so that's what we've been doing with the Sermon on the Mount. We just kind of been taking our time, but yet don't forget the overall picture of this class is that it's still the life of Christ, but we are taking time to go through his sermon, probably the greatest sermon ever preached. And so Matthew chapter 5 is where we are at. And we're looking at verses 33 through 37. 33 through 37. Now, before we begin, I want to kind of ask a little bit of review questions. Why is Jesus going through these kinds of topics? Is there a purpose behind it? So far, what has he been talking about here in chapter 5 that we've been discussing for the last few weeks?
Personal relationships.
Personal relationships, about how we relate to one another, and talking about brothers and sisters, whether if they get into an argument, they're to do what? How do they handle the situation?
Talk to that person.
Talk to that person. Yes, you go to that person. And so it all deals with the attitude, basically. It all begins with the heart. Why we get angry, or why we say certain things that we know we shouldn't say, or why we do certain things that we know we shouldn't do, it all begins where?
The heart.
In the heart, yes. So this is what Jesus is dealing with. But why did he pick like these certain topics, like anger or retaliation or lust and divorce? Like why these examples?
Common problems.
Okay, I'd say yeah, it is common problems. It is common problems, but according to the context that we see here.
I'm new to this class.
He was trying to teach the proper way to do things over what the Pharisees how the Pharisees said you had to do things.
Yes, absolutely. Remember, key verse 20. In order for you to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must have a righteousness that surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees. Now, the kind of righteousness that the Pharisees had dealt with what? The inside or the outside? The outside. All about outward appearance, okay? They're all about fame, position. They're all about recognition. They always like to be commended for the things that they did, and Jesus can talk about that, especially when you get to chapter 6. However, what these Pharisees were teaching the people at that time, and the Jews, is a lot necessarily based upon like what these other ancient rabbis were telling them. And so their authority on what they were teaching is necessarily what the ancient rabbis taught. And we're going to look at another example here from verses 33 through 37. But yes, the overall purpose of what Jesus is telling them is that you must have a righteousness that surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees. And so far, anger. What is it that they've heard? Well, they heard that it's okay to be angry. But Jesus says what?
Watch your heart.
Now, watch your heart. Watch your heart. And so, according to the rabbis and the Pharisees, what they were teaching is that it's okay to be angry as long as you don't kill, as long as you don't murder that person. Jesus says, no, I say to you, don't even be angry. Fix your heart. What about lust?
Well, they said that was okay.
They said it was okay. They said you can look as long as you want, but you just can't touch. What did Jesus say?
Adult in the heart is the same thing as actually doing it.
Is the same thing as actually doing it. Because you decided in the heart that if you had the opportunity to commit the physical act of adultery, that woman, you would. That's where it all begins, is what Jesus says. So, you need to clean on the inside. Clean yourself on the inside. And then outwardly, you'll just naturally be clean. So first start on the inside. Okay, what about, divorce?
Don't do it.
Yes, basically, don't get divorced. And what is the only authority that we have for a scriptural divorce and remarriage? Adultery, yes. That's the only scriptural authority that we have for divorce and remarriage, is that if a guilty party has committed the physical act of adultery. But yet, the Pharisees were teaching what?
It's okay.
Well, it's okay, I
Yeah,
mean, to
divorce
like
it.
divorce. I mean, it's okay just to throw out all these certificates of divorces. And Jesus is going to handle that more specifically and explicitly when you get to chapter 19. But yeah, I mean, they're just saying like, hey, man, you don't want her, just go ahead. Just give her that certificate of divorce and feel free to browse around all you want. But Jesus says, no, it's not like that, okay? I think that's good of a review that we have here. I don't want us to spend too much time because I want us to get into verses 33 through 37. So if I have anybody who's willing to volunteer to read this section.
33, 37.
Yes, sir.
Again, you've heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it's the city of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil.
All right. So the text for our present lesson, at least this evening, focuses entirely on the speech that comes from our mouth. Now, Jesus already dealt with how we need to be controlling our tongue. Going back earlier, just a few verses, he says, but I say to you that everyone who's angry with the brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother or whoever says you fool will be liable to hell of fire. And then so, how do you insult somebody? You have to use your words, right? And so he's already spoken about the danger of our words. I mean, if your heart is filled with just evil, corrupt, and wickedness, then guess what? Your mouth and your speech is going to be uttering forth evil and wickedness as well. If you have some kind of grudge or bitterness or resentment towards a brother or sister in Christ, then guess what? Eventually, it's going to come out through your words and your speech. People are going to start to recognize and be like, man, that brother said, that to, sister or brother so-and-so. Man, there must be something going on between the two. And so eventually, that's what's going to happen. And so you got to control what? The heart. You need to get the heart cleansed. You need to clean out your heart. And so here, speaking about words and speech, here he's talking about those who don't keep their word, basically. They don't keep their end of the deal. They don't keep their word. Just like that man that said, yeah, I give you my word that I'm going to bring back those gardening tools. Guess what? Never seen them since. Couldn't find them around town, and I couldn't even find those gardening tools anywhere. And so, yes, giving our word to somebody is the focus of what Jesus is talking about here in verse 33 through 37. Now, most of us understand that as a rule, major problems can never be solved without a wise use of words. Am I right? Oh, yeah. So for a Christian, however, a discussion on how to speak is doubly important because he can never be salt of the earth or light of the world if his speech does not reflect his commitment to the Lord. All right, so I have titled, at least this section right here, for our Life of Christ Sermon on the Mount study, I cross my heart and I hope to die. Yep, cross my heart and I hope to die. They took vows and they took oaths and made oaths back in the day. And to kind of do a little bit of a comparison, it would be like our modern day of using the words, I promise to do this. Or I guarantee you that I will do this. Or I cross my heart and I hope to die. Or if you don't keep your end of the deal, you try to justify yourself by saying, oh, well, I had my fingers crossed. Yeah. Well, here's how they tried to get out of some vows and oaths. And we're going to look at that because, whoo boy, were the Pharisees horrible at this. They were horrible at not keeping their word. And they would end up teaching the Jews themselves in that day and age that, hey, as long as you did not swear by the name of God, since you only swore by the temple, then it's okay to break that vow. Because you didn't swear by the name of the Lord. Now, if you would have done it by the Lord, then you would have to keep your end of the deal. But since you didn't, it's okay for you to break it. Woo! Well, Now, Jesus is going to talk more about that in chapter 23, and we'll look at that here in just a few seconds. But let's look at the text, okay? Verse 33. What they had heard. He says, again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. Now, most likely what Jesus had in mind here was Leviticus chapter 19, verse 12. You want to jump back there real quick? In Leviticus chapter 19. Chris, go ahead and read that when you're there. Again, it's Leviticus 19, verse 12.
And ye shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord.
All right. Now, like I mentioned, the way the Pharisees got around this was by categorizing what vows you're bound to and what vows you're not bound to. They would say things like, if you make a vow to the Lord and by his name, you're bound by it. But if you were to swear a vow by the temple, that is different. Now, look at chapter 23 real quick of Matthew. Going back to Matthew, look at chapter 23. In chapter 23, the context there is Jesus pronouncing the woes against the scribes and Pharisees. The woes, meaning like the very strong rebukes, calling them out on their hypocrisy. Look at what he says in verse 16 of Matthew 23. Now, Chris, you can go ahead and read that.
Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the temple, that is nothing, but whoever swears by the gold of the temple is obligated.
All right. So they would say, for example, I swear on the temple that I will pay you by tomorrow. I'll repay you what I owe you tomorrow. Well, tomorrow comes, the guy approaches you, and you'd say, oh, well, I said I swore by the temple, okay? Okay, so I don't have to keep my end of the deal. Now, if I had sworn by the gold of the temple, then I would have repaid you the money that I had owed. This was one way how the Pharisees would get out of certain oaths and vows. And once again, in their schools that they have, rabbi schools of teaching, the Pharisees, again, they would teach what the law says. But again, they based their belief on the law on the authority of what the rabbis had taught. And they'd use the book called the Talmud. And so listen to what some of these rabbis had said in the Talmud. Rabbi Nadarim said that as long as you are swearing by the temple, it was custom in Israel to not keep your end of the deal. But as long as you were swearing by the gold of the temple or by heaven or by God himself, then you were bound and obligated to keep that end of the deal. Again, that's Rabbi Nadarim in the Talmud. And so think of it, again, in a modern way of crossing your fingers. You're telling somebody that you're going to do something, but then you try to justify yourself by saying, well, when I told you that I was going to do that, I had my fingers crossed right behind my back.
Why would you even swear by the temple if you have no reason to keep it?
Well,
if it's okay to get out of it.
Yeah. But here's
Which it's not.
Yeah, it's not. And Jesus is going to bring that up because when you go back to our text of Matthew 5, again, he says, in verse 34, but I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is the footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the great city of the great king. Now, people would say by the temple to try to get out of certain obligations. Well, the point of what Jesus is making, saying, by heaven, which is God's throne, or by earth, which is God's footstool, or even by Jerusalem, which is God's holy city. Well, the temple, what was the temple supposed to be?
God's house. or.
Yeah, it's God's house.
Yeah.
Yes, it was considered God's house. It was considered to be God's dwelling place there.
Right.
So the point of what Jesus is making, saying that if you're swearing by the temple, you still should have kept your end of the deal because it's God's dwelling place. and so the point, again, the overall point of what Jesus is wanting to get people to say is that if you're going to do it, just say it. Stop making these oaths. Stop making these vows. Stop making these promises. Keep your end of the deal. If you say that you're going to do it, then do it. If you say that you're not going to do it, then you're not going to do it. Now, again, I like how Jesus inserted a responsibility of being able to say no. Who in here has a hard time saying no? I cannot be the only one. Come on. Okay. Yes.
Saying no to
What's
what?
the danger of what could happen to us if we don't learn to say no at times?
You get overloaded.
You get overloaded.
And you might not go to someone that you did say you would help them with, and that's another no-no. Because
Yes.
if you tell somebody you're going to do it, you need to do it.
You need to do it.
And then it affects
Absolutely.
your heart.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Overloaded, affects the way you
Yeah.
feel towards people.
Absolutely. See, now you're going back to the heart again. Yes. I mean, you're overloading your heart. And what is that going to happen to your heart?
It's going to get overloaded.
Well, it's going to get overloaded, but when you're overloaded, what happens?
Hard, you get mean.
You get mean, yes. You get grumpy, you get grouchy. Yes, you get burnt out, in other words. You start snapping at people real easily. And then you begin to start wanting to isolate because you're tired of people asking you to do things. And then you start pushing them away, and then you start to go into isolation. So you see, it all begins in here. You got to do a heart check. Okay? It's okay to say no at times. And I'm preaching to myself. Yes, I am. I need to learn to say no at times. But I get that part of me that says,
I think
I don't
we
want to
feel
hurt their
like we
feelings
get-
if I don't say
think we feel
yes.
We're taught, we're raised to where we think we can't, kind of. We just, it's not nice to say no,
Yeah,
you know?
but here's the thing. What Jesus is saying is that it's for your own good. Because if it hurts the other person's feelings, then what does that say about them? It says that, okay, they don't feel like wanting to go find another option. They don't feel like trying to find a different method. And so they're putting all their hope and their trust and their faith in you. And if they get hurt over that, then that kind of shows you where their faith and trust is at. Yes. And so, yes, they need to do a little bit of a heart check themselves. Now, at times it's good that some people can come to you because they see you as a reliable person, right? Okay, and so that's a good positive aspect of it. But if
And
your plate
sometimes
is
they
already
know
full,
you'll do it.
What's
yeah.
that?
Sometimes they just know you'll do it.
they know you'll do it, so they'll take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. Yes, that's what I was trying to lead everybody to. Yes, they will start to take advantage of you, and when they start to take advantage of you, what's your performance gonna be like?
Not good.
It's not going to be good at all. Okay, it's not going to be good at all. Now, in verse 33, Jesus uses the word vow and he uses the word oath. Now, is there a difference between a vow and an oath?
Sounds like it.
What's a vow?
A promise.
A promise. And what's an oath?
I swear.
A promise.
A
No.
promise. Well, an oath calls on another as a witness that what one says is true. Okay? So the Mosaic law, here's the thing, the Mosaic law prohibits irreverent oaths. It prohibits vain use of the Lord's name, and it prohibits broken vows. You can look at Numbers chapter 30, verse 2, and Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 21 through 23. And so that is why Jesus says, verse 34 through 37, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. So now, a lot of people bring up the question that, okay, well, if I can't take an oath, then what happens if I get called to court to serve as a witness?
That's a different oath, isn't it?
That's a different oath. Okay, so is Jesus specifically saying that you cannot take an oath, period?
No.
No, rather he is saying keep your word. That's it.
Choose your own
Now, yeah.
carefully.
Choose yours carefully. Now, in a judicial system or a court system, that's different. You're called on to give an oath to testify as a witness to an incident that occurred. Now, when you're doing that, should your word be true and honest?
Yes.
Absolutely, it needs to be. Just like when you're interacting with somebody, your oath or your vow to them needs to simply be genuine and true. If you're telling them that, hey, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do it. Okay? Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Don't even say, I promise I'll get to it or I guarantee. Just say yes or just say no. If you can't do it, say no. If you can, say yes. It's simple.
That's a good lesson to teach little children.
Yes, it is.
Teach them early.
Absolutely. It really is. And so another rabbi in this Talmud, notice what he said. He said that he taught that the person who says an oath or a vow by Jerusalem says nothing. In other words, what he's indicating is that he's not making any vow at all. So it's okay for him to break it. Another rabbi by the name of Shavuoth, what kind of names these rabbis have? Ooh. He says this, if any swear by heaven, by earth, by the sun, although the mind of the swearer be under these words to swear by him who created them, yet this is not an oath. Or if any swear by some of the prophets, or by some of the books of the scripture, although the sense of the swearer be to swear by him that sent the prophet or that gave that book, nevertheless that is not an oath. So in other words, what he is simply saying is that as long as you don't swear by him, God, then it's okay for you to break your word. You can swear by heaven, you can swear by Jerusalem, you can swear by the sun, you can swear by the books of the scripture, you can swear by the name of Jeremiah the prophet, Ezekiel the prophet, and you can break it. As long as you don't swear by the name of God. Man, where do they get this stuff? What?
Isn't that saying you can lie about it?
Yes.
That's what you're doing.
Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. But yet they try to justify themselves by saying that, well, as long as it's not under the holy name of God, then it's okay. That's their way of trying to justify themselves. And again, believe it or not, we try to do that as well, don't we? Again, it goes back to that finger cross. Well, I kept my fingers crossed. Or we may say something like, yeah, I kind of spoke too soon. I really didn't get a chance to look at my planner or my schedule and everything, and so.
I don't think you should be swearing like that all the time.
Well, here's
That's
the thing.
not a good habit.
It's not. I mean, the thing is, like, we shouldn't be swearing or making oaths personally on a personal account at all. We need to be saying yes or no.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. I'm preaching to myself here. Because I know that there's been times, even when I said, like, okay, brother so-and-so, yeah, I mean, let's go grab lunch or something like that. And then all of a sudden, I come to find out that we had a doctor's appointment. I didn't look at my schedule first, and I already told him that we would go and do it. Well, should I pray for forgiveness for that? You bet I do. I do. Yes,
Really?
I felt guilty because I should have took responsibility of looking at my schedule before giving him an answer. I hold myself accountable for that. And so, but we all make those little mistakes, and at times, the issue is that we don't stop to even think about it. We kind of
But
think
some
it's one of those
things come
small little
up,
things
yeah.
that we shouldn't, it shouldn't bother us. What?
Some things just come up and you don't have any control over.
Yes, now that's a different situation. Those are circumstances that we don't have control over, whether if it's sickness, whether if it is, the weather or something like that. I mean, if it's not a circumstance that's beyond our control, then we need to be keeping our word. We need to be keeping our end of the deal. What's that, Chris?
No, in the circumstance you're talking about where you didn't realize you had another appointment scheduled, if you contacted the person and apologized and rescheduled,
Oh, yeah.
but that would be fine,
Yeah.
but if you just let it go and just don't show up, then
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
different story,
Yeah. Yeah, no. Let me clarify. No, I contact that other brother, and I do apologize, but I still hold myself responsible because that's happened more than once, and I need to do better at looking at my schedule more often.
Yeah.
than just, going ahead and saying yes or no right there.
Yeah, and us following that, let our yes be yes and our no be no. You have a reputation. We all do.
Yes, that's right.
Do we do that or do we not?
Mm.
Each of us has a reputation already.
Yeah.
With the people that we know.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and
Right.
they know. If I say yes, I'll do this, or yes, I'll be there, that I will do that.
Yes,
And the other person won't question.
that's right.
Because of your reputation, because you've proven
Yeah.
that you do that on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
And that's what a Christian should be.
That's right. And, that goes back to being salt of the earth and light of the world, right? We're trying to make an influence and impact in society, and being that salt and being that light goes back to our reputation. And so we can't be salt of the earth, we can't be light of the world if we are not truly demonstrating our commitment to the Lord. And one way that we show that we're committed to the Lord is by being a man or woman of our word, right? And so we can't let our reputation be tarnished from that. And so we have a reputation to keep, and that's a good and great point right there. Now, regarding the distinctions that the Jews made, Jesus said that, none of the things that they swore by could be separated from God. Heaven is what? What's the place of heaven? We talked about it.
God's dwelling place.
Yes, that's God's throne room. Yes, that is God's throne room. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 1 explains that. Heaven is the eternal abode of God. It's his throne room. And then so you can't separate heaven from the Lord. You can't separate the Lord from heaven. What about the earth? Earth is what?
His property.
His property. Yes, his footstool. So you can't separate that, from the Lord. And Jerusalem, what's the city of Jerusalem?
City of the great king.
The city of the great king. It was the holy city. You can't separate that. And again, even the temple at that time. The temple was considered to be, God's dwelling place with his chosen people. And so you can't separate that from the Lord at all. They all go together as one. And so when you are swearing by the temple, you technically are making a vow to the Lord.
Who's the great king? Jesus?
Well, the holy city, goes back to the great king as in David in the sense. But obviously Jesus is the great king, but at this time they did not recognize that. But instead of trying to make or determine which oaths were binding and which were not, Jesus says just make no oath at all. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Now, I think we spent a good amount of time just kind of discussing the text. And so I want us to grab some teachings that we can learn from this. Now, there's multiple ones. Chris already brought one to our attention about our reputation and our character as Christians. We already talked about how the fact that Jesus gives us the authority, basically, to say no to certain things, that we shouldn't overload and overbear ourselves to the point where we burn ourselves out, because if we burn ourselves out, that's going to affect our performance. If our performance is going to be affected by it negatively, then our reputation and character is going to be tarnished. And we don't want that to happen. And so Jesus says at times, you got to say no for you. For you. Now, what are some other lessons that we can probably take from this teaching?
Don't swear.
What's that?
Don't do it unless you can actually do it. Don't say I will be there unless you can absolutely be there.
Yes.
Be careful about it when you say it.
Yes, be careful about it and what you
I know
say.
there have been times that somebody asked me to do something, I go, well, I don't know if I can do that or not. But I'll try.
Yeah,
I said, I'm not gonna swear or anything like that, but I'll try.
I'll try.
That's the best I can give you.
Yes.
And that lets them know I'm gonna try, but not,
Yeah.
Sometimes you ask to do something and you just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another point.
Yeah.
It could hurt feelings.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm not involved in that. I don't want to take part.
Yeah.
That's just not my, that's not my deal.
Not my cup of tea, basically. Yeah. I think this is also a good lesson for, I guess, for those who are being told no. Not just for the ones telling no, but also the ones being told no. If there's a person that you've reached out asking their help for something, and if they say, no, I can't do it, don't get your feelings hurt over it. Don't get your feelings hurt over it. There's probably a reason why. Don't be thinking like, oh, he told me no, I feel rejected. I don't think he likes me. No, it could be something else going on why they can't do it.
They might just be busy.
And they could just may be busy, yes. And here's the thing. There's so many other people that you can probably ask for help.
Yeah.
A lot of others. Now, if it's something like a situation, I'm talking about a situation where you know for a fact that you can't do it yourself and you actually can't help, then there's a lot of other people you can ask for help, not just one person. Going back to what Vicki had mentioned about making sure that you can do it. This brings us to one lesson about being a truthful person. Being a truthful person. An honest person would have no need to make a vow at all. Each of us ought to be honest, to be the kind of individuals who does not need to make a vow or to use an oath to be believed at all. So be a truthful person. Second, always keep your word. Yes. Always keep your word. And perhaps it is, again, just my imagination, but it seems that more and more people are failing to do what they say that they're going to do. And again, preaching to myself. Preaching to myself. I fall right under this category, and it's something that I need to work on a lot better. But I'd say, be a person of your word. Let us be a person of our word. And when we say that we'll do something, we need to be sure that we'll do it. Now, what if it comes to a point where it may be hard to keep that word? What should you do?
Still do it.
Still do it. There you go. There you go. Even if
said
it's
you would,
hard to
you
keep
do
that
it.
word, if you said that you're going to do it, still do it. Yeah, still do it.
When it's that hard, you might later say, I'll rethink that before I say yes next time.
Lesson
And
learned.
sometimes it's not as hard as you thought it was going to be.
That could be another case
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yes. You may end up coming out of it thinking
Yeah,
like, oh, hey, that actually wasn't
I'm
that
glad
bad.
I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it could go either way. You may end up saying, oh, that's a lesson learned. I'm going to rethink that next time. Or you may say, oh, it actually wasn't that hard. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So I think I can do that again.
Sometimes you have to say no if it's something that goes against, what you believe or something.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Of course. Obviously as Christians, our
And
standard
and
of
somebody
authority.
that's not a Christian would, might not get that.
Oh, yeah. Well, then that's when you take that as a
Oh.
teaching opportunity.
This is-
Yes. Take that as a teaching opportunity and explain to them why you don't do it and why you won't. Yeah. And who knows, you may be surprised. Yeah. Hey, right on time. Yeah. Any other closing thoughts or remarks?
I was just wondering, I don't know if this has anything to do with what we're talking about, but some people have prayed to God that if they get them out of this trouble, they'll never do so-and-so again,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just, I swear I'll never do that again, or
Yeah.
this, and that kind of stuff.
If you get me out of
And
this
then you're in
foxhole,
good
Yeah.
shape again. and
I'll
you
go
do
to
it.
church every
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Every Sunday, yeah.
But you gotta be careful about those kind of promises.
Oh, absolutely.
More than anything.
Here's a quick thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you have to do something, don't jump at it. Say yes. Find out the details. What's expected?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What's it going to involve? Is it going to be lifting 200 pounds that's going to break your back?
Yeah.
Are you going to have a hoist there?
Yeah.
Who else is going to be there?
Mm-hmm.
What atmosphere?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Find all the details
Get the
before you
details.
say yes. You may decide. Let's talk about it.
Yes. And that brings up another quick question real quick. That's bad grammar, sorry. But why do you suppose we quickly jump and say, okay, yes, I'll do it?
Because you want to be liked.
You want to be liked.
You don't want to break their feeling.
You don't want to hurt their feelings.
Because the money's good.
The money might be good, yeah.
Usually not in this case. You're just doing it for a friend.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I know what Brady's saying. It depends on the circumstance or the
True,
situation.
true, yeah.
Well, sometimes you want to help people.
Yeah.
you see this person that seems to always, I don't know how else to say, be in a mess, and they do need help.
Yeah.
And they come to you to help them.
Yeah.
We think, man, if that was me, I'd sure appreciate this. But the more you get involved, you're going, oh.
Oh man. Yeah.
But you told that person you would help them, so you carry on.
Yep.
And like you say, you try to talk to them, teach them, you know, maybe a better decision should have been made.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another great point. I mean, trying to put yourself in their shoes. I mean, being, you know, overly compassionate and sympathetic. Man,
And if they're not a Christian and you are, that would be prime to help
Yeah.
someone like that and to maybe, you know, start getting a relationship or something.
Absolutely.
You might quickly jump in saying yes to get out of honeydews.
Yeah.
Y'all call Chris.
Sure, I'll go on that. I'll go on that golf trip. Yeah.
Well,
He is working that hat Rick gave him.
well, I think that is a great, funny note to end this discussion tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your inputs and your participation. I think we'll come back next Wednesday, if the good Lord wills, and we will see what Jesus has next for us to discuss about.
What's it with